I'd like to welcome everyone to HBCU Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Rocky Miller, along with my co-host, the Rattler himself, the Bishop, Mr. Stephen Campbell. We had a very interesting weekend, Mr. Campbell. Let's just say some dreams were crushed, some hope there are fan bases that continue to believe, and there are others making their Thanksgiving plans, understanding that they will be home for Christmas and after Thanksgiving. This is kind of a strange place for you, Mr. Campbell. You've been part of the Rattler Nation, which for the last few years was in it to win it down the stretch. Even if you weren't winning it, you were in the thick of it. This year, Mr. Campbell, I'm not sure what you're in, but it's not what you've accustomed to, man. How does this feel right now as a Rattler fan, just winding down the season, realizing that all hope is lost?
Hey, man, listen, we haven't been able to do a crime report. What I did, we still have our agents out there. And, we have the CSI crew. And I had to send them specifically down to Tallahassee, down on the field, Rocky, because I said something's going on. There are no snakes in the end zone. I need to know. We used to have 30, 40, 50 snakes a game in the end zone. And he said, I got a report, and I can report it right here now. James Coles has pulled a snake away in the end zone that has prevented snakes from going into the end zone. So we got to fix that, man. We got to fix that right there, man. You know what I'm saying? We got to fix that, man. And we got people coming in there, man. It was so bad, man. And people catch me tomorrow with Mike, man. The M-Bar opened up a pop-up shop. How many wings we was giving out down there in Tallahassee, boy. That's how bad it was, man. Now a pop-up shop.
So because I've been through to Bragg Memorial Stadium and seen what all that it has to offer, on a scale of 1 to 10, what was the atmosphere like as far as, game day atmosphere?
Man, the great thing about it, and I said this, shout out to the ONG Strikes. I did that Monday review, man. I'm going to say this is why I've always said family should have been the SWAC. I know what Jack State's going to bring. And shout out to my homeboy, Ashley Robinson, because I knew that he was bringing the boom. Our AD asked him. He made sure it made it happen because we wanted that SWAC big game atmosphere. And, listen, the crowd was down there. A lot of people in Jackson, that didn't go to Vegas. They came down to support their Tigers, man. It was a night game. The Marching 100 was ready to roll. The Sonic Boom was ready. The J-Sets. The atmosphere was there. Club Bragg, good crowd. Even though I thought we would have more, but that had a lot to do with Florida State's homecoming. The rooms were really high, unfortunately, this time of the year. So we probably would have had more people there. But, man, the atmosphere was ready to go, man. It was really exciting. A lot of my home folks was there, you know what I mean? So, man, it was just great, man. So, I hated that on our end, we did not deliver like the game was last year. I didn't mind, the game went down to the wire last year. I would have hoped it would have done this year. But you know what? Jack State came down and took care of their business, man. They took care of their business.
I hate that this is a thing, right? they counting down to the moment that I'm going to get messy or cause trouble, man. I don't understand why that's a thing. And I would, and that is the sentiment of many of our followers that come in the HBCU Coaches Corner, that they feel that I'm being. I just have those questions and those concerns that make you say, Again, some would say just by mentioning the Rattlers and their strife that they're dealing with this year, that's even messy. But I think it's a fair concern because this, in my opinion, okay, me and you took a couple 6-hour drives, and you was telling me about the drive. You were telling me about the history of FAMU, that you guys did have some down periods in your history. And I just couldn't imagine. What I had watched under the helm of Willie Simmons was an abundance of talent, which was very, very clever play calling and a suffocating defense for really 3 straight years at the time. So I couldn't imagine Florida State having this kind of dip. I'm sorry. FAMU having this kind of dip. I just couldn't imagine it. That's what I'm going to get to. In your wildest dreams, 2 years post Willie Simmons, could you have imagined this could have happened?
No, because in the end, and I will say this, the thing that is, when you looked at last year, you saw the talent, you thought, the coaching was not up to the level, and you figured that, first year coach, getting out the kinks, get your people in place, and then come in next year, they say, hey, we got guys that we feel really good about. We got faster. The offensive line is going to be better. We got people that have come back. And, so you had hope. But, man, listen, that first game down in Miami was a harbinger to what was going to happen. And I tell you that it was so funny. I told those guys there.
That's the SAT word.
Hey, how about that? And I told the guys on the ONG Strike Zone last night, we had did a prediction, right? Prediction show. So we know coaches watch the show. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to be the FAMU Debbie Downer, right? Because I had kind of heard some things that we weren't clicking, because especially on the quarterback. I heard the quarterback was not clicking at all, right? Before because we were supposed to get this other guy that was an all-conference D1 guy, you know what I mean? And that fell through. So when I looked at our schedule,
you had got the year before.
Huh?
Like you had got the year before.
Right, yeah, exactly. So if we had got that guy, he because again, he was all conference at D1 level. So he probably would have came in and been the best quarterback in the SWAC because of the play at a high level. That's what would, least would have gave us that, right? I looked at our schedule and I knew that those games that we lost, we were going to lose those games. Not the Howard game, but the 3 home games. There was no doubt in my mind, because after that Howard game, I said there's no way, because I knew what Alabama State had. I knew what Jack State had, and I know Trey Oliver. You see what I'm saying? So when you know what it is can you do it? And then when you play Howard, you don't see any, the thing with Jet Petty, he's not playing. And then you play that, because we played Central first, right? Yeah, we play Alabama State first, then Central. So when Alabama State comes down there and it's just no resistance, then you go and then you play Central, and then you barely beat Alcorn, you barely beat a bad Alcorn team. And I'll tell people this, and I talked about this, and we're going to talk about this because my Jack State people understand. That kid Lockhart goes to be special, man. That kid Lockhart is going to be special. And I'm going to tell you this, and this is for the old school JSU, not for the, because they ain't going to even know because they weren't born. That kid going to be the next Shannon Boyd. That boy might not lose a conference game. Well, might not. Put it like this. They lost a conference game, but he didn't quarterback. But him quarterback, they might not lose a conference game next 3 years with that boy quarterback. Like Shannon Boyd. They are right there. So everybody that's trying to get there, they better get it together next year. Because that kid, because with Shannon Boyd, what was so great about, he had the running attack. He had the Lewis Tillmans. He had my boy that played Tim Barnett. The Houston Hoop, these guys, the Derek Carr, they had super talent around Shannon. But what Shannon always did in those big games, when he needed to make a big throw, he made a big throw. We need to make a big run, he made a big run. So he never had the flashy stats of a Superman Ken or nobody like that, but he had the best record out of all of them. Because when it was a big game, Shannon Boyd was going to make sure they won the game. So that's the thing about it. With this kid here, I can see he's going, just his mentality and just kind of watching him and where his teammates are. He's already a leader. You can just tell. I saw Rempert get in his behind a little bit, which was good. Probably more of a senior leadership moment. Hey, you need to do this. You need to coach him up. But like I say, man, we better get it together. Seriously. The whole SWAC better get it together. Or it could be a funny thing down there on 1400 Lynch.
Well, since you already kind of got into that question I mentioned Lockhart, I'll ask you straight up. when Jacoby and Morgan went down against Grambling, I can be honestly say that I didn't think it was in that game. I didn't think that it would lead to what eventually happened, right?
Right.
We'll save the Jackson State faithful the pain and misery of, mentioning what happened, but I didn't think what would happen. They brought in Stouffer, didn't work out. Brought in Lockhart, was able to right the ship and gain the lead, but eventually they would come up just a little short with a miraculous kick by the kicker and some heroic play by a true freshman. My question to you is, coming out of that game, my concern was, could Jackson State repeat with a backup quarterback? And so that's where, with you laying eyes on the quarterback live and seeing the team, can Jackson State repeat as not only SWAC champions, but Black National champions with a backup quarterback?
Well, here's the thing. The defense is good enough to win a championship. The offensive running attack is already at a championship level. You got the playmakers on the outside. So again, the thing that, they're not going to lose another game. And like I said, that Bethune game is going to be interesting. I think it'll be interesting all the way to the third quarter. And I think Bethune, they just don't have the defense to hold up against that run attack. I think they'll be able to score. So Jack State, like I say, it's simple. To beat this Jack State in this TC iteration, it's about getting them to turn the ball over and getting it where that game gets funky. That's the two. Grambling's really good at that. That's why they beat them 2 years in a row. They've gotten those turnovers. They got in the game to get kind of crazy, and they're hanging there. I don't know if Bethune could do that. They can score, but I don't think they're going to. Now, on the flip side, when they play the teams from the MEAC, they're going to go against some well-coached teams. But what I have yet to see, if you look at the three favorites, Delaware State, North Carolina Central, South Carolina State, I don't think South Carolina State has the defense that they've had normally, right? So that kind of works against it. I think they're still, and even with their quarterback offense, I think that's shaky. Delaware State has the offense because they can run the ball, right? Shorten the game, but their defense can't hold up against Jack State. So the only team that would have both sides, and they're weak at the defensive back position, but they got a great quarterback and they got a great running attack, would be North Carolina Central. That would be the matchup I would want to see what Trey Oliver would do. And mind you, Lockhart, let's see. So what they got? 4 more games left? Is that right? 3 more games? So he would play, huh?
Yeah, Lockhart, they have 3 more games and the SWAC championship.
So he's going to play 4 games, and the 5th game will be the SWAC championship. That's half of a season right there that he's going to play and be comfortable and know the offense. So that's the thing about it. So he's not going to come in there bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like, for the lack of a better term, coming in to brag and stuff like that. He's going to matriculate and know the offense and be very comfortable by the time the Celebration Bowl rolls around. So I don't think I don't want to hear people say, well, he's a freshman and he hasn't played. No, he would have played. And the thing about it, he's got big games. See, every game of Jack State counts. They got to win them. So every game he plays in from here on out is a big game. Can't lose the Alcorn because the Alcorn, and they got to win because Alabama State is on their heels. Can't lose to Bethune because Bethune-Cookman is on their heels.
Well, let me say this. There have been a lot of backup quarterbacks come in and help out championship teams for 1 or 2 games. There are a lot less instances of quarterbacks coming in and taking over a team and then running them to the championship. The only one I can think of in my mind is Jeff Hostetler when Phil Simms went down in 1990 in probably the third of the season, and Hostetler led them all the way to a championship through the playoffs. I don't remember many other circumstances in football, period, where the backup quarterback has come in and then led the team to a championship. Yes, Tom Brady, you're correct with Tom Brady. He kind of took over at the beginning of the season. That's the beginning of the season. And matter of fact, and to Tom, Nick Foles, thank you. That's another instance of where that happened. So that's why I was kind of figure out how often does this happen? Because usually what happens is I've seen it where more likely where backup quarterbacks play one or two good games, they get film on them, and then their effectiveness kind of dwindles or fizzles out. I'm going to put the call lines up, and anybody can call in. I don't care where you're from. And tell me why Jackson State can win a championship with a backup quarterback, or if you want to make an argument why they can't win a championship with a backup quarterback.
Well, because, go ahead. Finish your thought because I want to go ahead.
Because and the next thing I was going to give you a chance to show me where this has happened in the SWAC or in college football recently, because that's where we are.
Well, let me tell you something. Well, I think you got to be careful with the term backup quarterback, right? This kid is going to be a future starter. There's a difference between a backup quarterback that doesn't have the ability to be a starter, right? Compared to a person that has the ability to be a starter. He's the backup because they got an all-conference player that was in front of him. That's why he's the backup, not because of his talent. Because his talent, quiet as kept. If Lockhart was at FAMU, he start. If Lockhart was at several other schools, Lockhart would probably start down at Prairie View. Lockhart would start at Texas Southern. So that's what I'm saying. He has a starter build. And I'll tell you this, and I'll give you this on the college level, who had a confident quarterback, seasoned quarterback, but had a talented guy, more talented guy behind him, is when Clemson went all the way with Trevor Lawrence.
And as I think about it, I'm thinking about 12 gauge as well for Ohio State. He relieved, I believe it was Barrett. He came in for R.J. Barrett, and 12 gauge Cardale Jones came in.
And that was during the playoffs.
Yes, that was during the playoffs. Yes. So, hey, caller, with the last 49868, you're live on HBCU Coaches Corner with Steve and Rocky.
Yo, what up, fellas?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm good. This is Calvin.
Go ahead, Calvin.
Calling from the Jacktown. What Lockhart has is the best advantage. He has the running game for Jackson State. I don't think Jackson State has had less than 200 yards rushing all year long, or somewhere close to it. So he's not an idiot. Just keep running the ball. Don't have Lockhart do too much out of himself, and then it has a good defense. So could he win it? Yes, but you got to simplify some things. You know, I don't think he needs to be throwing about 30 passes. If he can keep them around the 10, 15 range and just run the ball if you can, because who else is going to stop us right now running the ball in the SWAC at least?
And that's the thing.
What I got to say.
You know, I agree with you. I don't think anybody can stop you guys from running the ball, but there are several scenarios where you guys could end up down 2 scores where you would have to throw the ball. And in that situation, you wouldn't have the luxury of being able to turn around and hand the ball off to you. In that situation, I think you guys would be way more comfortable with Jacoby Morgan at quarterback. Could you be confident with a true freshman back there if you happen to be down a touchdown with 5-6 minutes left to go?
That's a position that I don't want to be in for true freshmen, to be honest with you. But things happen in football. You got to come out, people run the first team, you know, you got to get out early and keep it. You can make those throws, if you can make them a throwable ball, you know, like a 5-yard and under, make a dunk, something to get his confidence up the first couple of throws. But if you're running the ball like we did against FAMU on Saturday, that play action game is going to be wide open. That safety is going to have to fight. That slant and go sluggo is going to be open.
And he's going to have to get. Now, I didn't watch the game, guys. I did see him in Grambling and in the game where I think he kind of struggled passing the ball in a critical moment, he was able to hit a strike to Rembert late in the game. Were there any plays in the game this weekend where they had to have it and he was able to come through?
No, not at all.
We had to have it.
Yeah. Was there any had to have it moments?
No, sir. No, listen, no. They took care of that.
Defense been all the way over.
Yeah, no, they took care of that at the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter. That game was over right there. That boy was on cruise control on that. Hell, Stover could have came in there and won that game after that.
Yeah. So and that's what I'm telling you. That's when a guy like Jacoby Morgan is important to have him on the team, is because he's had a history at those had to have it moments. He's come up with it. I have to admit this as being a guy that has said many times that Jacoby Morgan is a trailer rather than a truck. But I've seen it come through in several instances where Jackson State had to have it. He came through with the big throw or the big run. And so my question is, can this freshman do it? And it looks like the Jackson State faithful believe he can. Hey, man, Calvin, thanks for calling. You got anything else before we drop?
Well, one thing, Southern, y'all still suck. I hope y'all don't win another game. All right, I'll let y'all.
Oh, man.
Now, listen, I'm going to tell you this. Now, this is what's so crazy. When you sit back and, we're going to go, guys, we're going to kind of free flow. We're going to have a big guest on. We almost had a big guest this tonight, but the coach had, he's working on some things, but we have a big guest. So we kind of free flowing. So, we're going to go every which way. But he went to Southern. And let me just tell you like this. I have been around a long time, and I have seen some bad Southern teams. And I remember in the 80s, that's when Southern really got known as a band school in the 80s, because they wasn't winning nothing. But this right here, to lose the UAPB, man, that is something right there. And looking at their schedule, because this was, to me, the only other game that they could have won. They might only have one win this whole season. And they were predicted to win the West.
Yeah. This may be the only season where two coaches get fired in the same year. Hey, we got a caller from the same team. We got a caller with the last 46422. You live on HBCU Coaches Corner with Steve and Rocky. What's your name and where you calling from?
What's going on, Rocky? What's going on, Mr. Campbell? This is J Love. I'm calling from Dallas. How y'all doing?
Hey, what up, J Love? What you got for us?
So I kind of want to chime in on the statement you made about, can Lockhart get us to a Black National Championship, or can he win a Black National Championship? And I think it boils down to three key components. And I've been thinking about this, since Morgan went down. Number one is what Mr. Campbell said is very, very true. He had 4 games. He got 4 games to play. So he played well. He made freshman mistakes at FAMU. We had that fumble right there in the red zone. I know we all seen that. And then he missed the running down the field with nobody around him. He just completely overthrew that pass. That was one big mistake. And then I want to say another one he did. He threw in double coverage against FAMU safeties, and they just did not they just didn't pick the ball. I still don't understand how they didn't catch that ball. So he's making freshman mistakes, but after 4 games, you kind of that's a long time. 4 games is a lot of football. It's still a lot of football left to be played, and these are must wins for us. We can't drop a game, so he knows he got to come out and be playing at his very best and making sure that he's making IQ throws and passes. That's number one thing. It ain't like we got the season a wrap. He can go out and he's got to play his best football. So that's number one. Number two, I think the biggest thing, the second big, it's going to be coaching. TC and Quinn are going to have to do their best coaching in these last 3 games, because number one, the defense, we got to be able to keep teams close. In that FAMU game, the offense really wasn't clicking in the first half. Well, we went into the first half. What was it, 3-3 or 3-10, something like that?
3-10, and it should have been. And this, I'm not being disrespectful, but I'm just being to your point. It should have been 3-3 going into the half. It really should have been. To your point.
It should have. Yeah, it should have.
Just the way the game was playing out.
Exactly. It should have been 3-3, but we were fortunate enough to get that score right there before the half, which was big for us because it really boosted the morale of the offense. But the defense is going to have to keep the games close. We can't let a team get up 14, 20, 17 points because the offensive production, he's still a young quarterback. Now he's a freshman. He's a true freshman. He's not a redshirt freshman. Like the first backup, whose names is just slipping me right now. But he's a true freshman. So the defense is going to have to play good. And then the last thing, the last big point that I gotta make, the coaches, they cannot veer away from the run game. Regardless, even if a team is loading the box, which I think Valley's going to do, and I know BCU is going to do it. I know Bethune's going to do it. Even if they load the box, we're going to have to stick to our run game because our offensive linemen and our running back room is too talented. It's just like Novocaine. Give it a little bit of time. It's going to work. Them boys will find some seams. And a true freshman quarterback, best friend is a running back. So I think if we play solid defense, allow him to get comfortable in the offense and be efficient at the run game, I feel pretty good about winning the SWAC. Now, the Black Natty, it's hard to repeat. It's just hard to repeat, and I don't want to put too much dip on our chip just yet. Let's get to the SWAC championship first. Let's finish out strong there, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Let me know what y'all think, fellas.
Well, I think you now. The caller has put up some great points. I think that so this is one of been my criticisms of TC for probably the past 2 years. When he has a dominant running game, he still has chosen to tinker and dabble in the passing game. I'm a guy that favors the running game. So if you got it clicking, there's no reason to drop back and pass it or anything, in my opinion. And TC has always been someone as a coach that's willing to call those running plays no matter how well the running game is working. So with that being said, Mr. Campbell, we got another call. Do you have anything? Let me go to
I just want to say, hey, man, that was a beautiful call. It was a very intelligent call. It was a well-thought-out call. That's what we're going to be doing tonight, man. The one thing I will say about this, man, in this show, hey, man, we got a lot of smart people that know football. So that's what we want you to call in. We ain't go over here talking about nobody mama and all that crazy stuff. We over here talking about football. You know what I'm saying? And what's going to happen. But I will say this, though, Rock, and we got my nephew in here, Lionel. But I'm going to say this. Here's the thing. What's going to be interesting, if it works out the way it is, Prairie View coming to Jackson State, you got to understand you do have a championship coach in Tremaine Jackson. And he understands in those moments what would need to be done to win the game. And the thing about it is, even though they lost to Alabama State, they do have a defense. And defense travel. So in the game, like he said, hey, we did 4 turnovers. That's why Prairie View lost that game. The 4 turnovers lost them that game, to be honest with you. So that's the team that will be sitting, lurking in the wings with a great coach. They're not going to be our coach because the coach, Tremaine Jackson, outstanding coach, TC. So the coaching battle is going to be even. Nobody's going to say this much or that much, right, on that end. But the problem is again, where I think Jackson State can be explosive, even with a freshman, and by that time has played multiple games where they can go get a big play from Savage. They can go get a big play from Remember. They can get a big play from Armand Miller, go 65 yards of Davenport. Those are things that I want to see. Prairie View, that's what they're going to have to do. They can't allow that. And again, once again, the blueprint was Grambling in Las Vegas. They did not allow those big shocking all plays of Jackson State just going crazy. So that's the thing about it.
All right, caller with the last 40527. You're live on HBCU Coaches Corner.
All right, what's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call. Hey, this is Fan, you KJ. Man, I was just watching your show here, and I saw where the question was, can JSU repeat as SWAC and national champions? Let me just say this much, man. I'm going to say this, and I want to say this not as a hater to JSU or whatever, but I'm a former ball player fan. I'm going to hope that that's not the case, because what that does, man, it continues to show how far off the SWAC and HBCU football has fallen, man. When you look at, like I say, now it's one thing to be, say, a backup quarterback, like say the second year red shirt freshman, but a true freshman can come in and like I say, just pretty much hand the ball off and make a little play here and there to win. That just shows you really how far off the HBCU football is really. When we were playing, man, there's no way in it. If your quarterback, the normal when we were playing, we had 2 good quarterbacks, right? But if you can go now in the same way, and it just shows, man, how embarrassing the loss was last Saturday for FAMU, with just a guy handing the ball off pretty much. And pretty much TC was just actually experimenting. I know sometimes I heard my man Campbell was saying that was some of the best football that FAMU has played defensively, and I'm gonna respectfully disagree. He was actually just experimenting to see what his quarterback can do, because he always knew that I can hand the ball off and win the game. Let me see what my quarterback can do. It was almost like a scrimmage. And you saw where he just said, okay, that's enough playing around. It's 10-3. I'm going to go ahead on and hand the ball off, and we go roll up 400 yards of rushing or whatever. So it just shows, man, just how far and how bad, and then what we're starting to see again, what's happening with NIL. You're starting to deplete talent so much that maybe 1, 2, 3 teams pretty much may have some decent talent, and then everything else is just mediocre in how you're playing, man. So again, respectfully, if Jackson State does it, kudos to them. But as a whole, for HBCU football, I hope that doesn't happen, because we're already not taken seriously as a conference. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. We're already not taken seriously as a conference by other conferences in FCS and FBS. But we gotta be able to start, man, making sure that we can have top talent and top talented teams to be able to compete. Even up to 3 years ago, when we had Willie and Dion and even Alabama, you couldn't have a quarterback go down and then kind of say, "Hey, we go still run it." That wouldn't happen. So I just hope that just doesn't happen like that, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you calling in, Fam J KJ. Hey, I want to say this though, because a true freshman winning the SWAC championship has happened since I've been watching the SWAC. You know, there was a guy by the name of Shador Sanders who came in here as a true freshman and was able to win a SWAC championship with a great defense, right?
But he didn't win a national championship.
Well,
he didn't win a national championship.
Okay, I got you.
Right.
But he did win it. He did win it nonetheless. And so my point is simply saying this. It's simply this: is that freshmen can be successful and have been successful in the SWAC in recent history. Mr. Campbell, what do you say to that?
Well, I'm gonna say, and somebody stole my thunder. Hey, man, listen. North Carolina A&T, and they went on a run. They won 4 Celebration Bowl championship and beat all comers, and they had multiple quarterbacks, and we survived that. We've seen dominant. Look, Grambling has had dominant runs. Jackson State has had dominant runs. FAMU has had dominant runs. This happens in college football on all levels. Now, what I will say to FAMU KJ's point, what I'm disappointed in is what I'm starting to see. And this is a credit. See, this is what I'm saying. You got to give credit. Hey, man, the rule is the rule. We all playing by the same rules. Jackson State playing by the same rules, FAMU, and everybody else. TC Taylor and them identifying talent on this level. That's a credit to them. When Willie was coaching, he was identifying talent. I give Eddie Robinson he's identifying talent. So, man, listen, I'm going to say this again. If Jackson State is building something, you got to do just like what Willie said. They building a bomb, we got to build a bomb. And I was right there with Coach Simmons saying, those guys up there, we got to get better. So this is the same thing here. So can they run away with it? Yeah, if you do not start a recruiting better time. But listen, they recruit the same guys that we're recruiting. But they're hitting on them better. They're developing their younger players. That whole offensive line is a bunch of guys that have been there for a second. So that's what I've been trying to tell people, man. When you what is your philosophy? And I talked about this last night. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's good, because to me, when you got somebody, the FAMUs, the Jackson States, the A&Ts, and people, that makes everybody, hey, you either step your game up or they're going to run over you. Now, me being a FAMUan and the pride that we have, because like I said, people talking about FAMU ain't part of no coalition. FAMU is 1-1. So I know how FAMU people think, and I know what the pressure is on Cozy. This is unacceptable to allow, and Rocky, understand this. This is Florida A&M in a year that I'm talking to football players that have coached played in the 70s. They said they'll never remember we've lost 3 games, 40-point blowouts. We didn't even do that when we were 1-10.
Wow.
Okay. So my thing is, with that being said, I'm not going to say the talent is down. I'm going to say a lot of the talent is not being coached well. And what I'll say, because you can look at Deshaun Jackson, you going to tell me they're not coaching them boys up? They're coaching them. Those guys are a couple of players away from being really dangerous. And I'm telling you, they could get in a game with anybody because Central's not no joke, bro. They went down to North Carolina and beat them home because they coached those guys to win that game. So that's my thing. This is about coaching. So, but what I'm telling people with Lockhart and what I've seen, and that's why I keep using Shannon Boyd, I saw that Jack State team, but they already had talent. And they were just adding piece by piece by piece, and everybody else didn't do it. And Jack State went on that run and didn't lose a conference game. This thing is setting up like that. So what I will say is, we'll see what happens with coaching and things around the SWAC, because I'm going to say Tremaine Jackson's going to have something to say. He's going to be able to recruit players down there in Prairie View. They are going to be, I think they're going to be amazing next year if they figure out what's going on with their quarterback. We'll see what happens with Alabama State. We'll see what happens with FAMU. So, again, things come, and I'll say this again. Jack State did lose to Grambling. They did lose to them. Alabama State played them for 60 minutes of football to the 1-yard line. So for 60 minutes and 99 yards, it was potential Alabama State could have won that game. So again, you can get players. There are other players that are playmakers that can come to our schools.
I'm gonna say something right after this, but I want to go ahead and handle this bit of business. Hey, I want to thank everybody who is watching HBCU Coaches Corner on the Offscript channel. We thank you very much for tuning in to the program on there. We're going to suspend the stream there. But, hey, just like always, you can catch it on the Rocky Miller channel, the official home of the HBCU Coaches Corner. Hit me with some ones, and then I'll go ahead and suspend it on Offscript once you have it switched over. I have something I want to say, though, about where I believe Jackson State has an advantage in the marketplace, Mr. Campbell, in this regard. They are the premier HBCU brand in HBCU football. And so when a guy like Quincy and a guy like Rembert want to play on the big stage, guys who are, in Rembert's case, a proven commodity, somebody who is an all-conference player, and who wants to be part of the HBCU experience. The bottom line is he goes to a blue blood, top tier brand. He makes that jump and he goes there and has tremendous success. The success that Quincy and Rembert is having, I wouldn't be surprised if we find guys that are now on Jackson State, on FAMU's roster, that end up at Jackson State, guys on TSU's roster that are on TSU's roster now, they end up in Jackson State, and rosters all over HBCU football. Because at the end of the day, if you want to play big-time football week after week and you want to play for championships, there's only one place to play in recent history, and that's JSU. What do you say to that? As somebody who supports the Rattlers, are you guys ready to compete on that level for players?
Well, let me say this, and I'll agree with you. And I think, once again, for all us old heads, I've seen Jack State look like this. I grew up with it looking like this, but I also went to Florida A&M, and I know what Florida A&M looks like, because they are still one of the few HBCU teams that won playoff games, that have beat big games. And we are still in the state of Florida. So that's the thing about it. FAMU, you looking when Billy Joe came. You looking when Willie came. Rudy Hubbard came. FAMU is always a coach and players away from always being in the mix, because we're in Florida. Florida, amen, it's Florida. Florida is home of national championship players. So again, The talent level is so big. So you're talking about a floor. That's why I always say Prairie View. Prairie View should be good. But I think it was interesting when I heard some of the Prairie View guys, some of that because of their past history has hurt them in their recruiting. Tremaine Jackson trying to. We don't have that problem with FAMU. A lot of these kids have always heard FAMU being winners. We got a lot of coaches all over the country that played on championship teams. So I think for FAMU, and I'm going to say this about Southern. Southern can get talent. Louisiana has a lot of talent. Southern is one coach away from getting talent. So I don't think it's to a point where Jack State is going to hoard all the talent and nobody can get it because FAMU, everybody has their unique, right, what looks good, right? When you go to the vet, 60,000, 40,000, might say 60,000 strong, the boom, the fan support and all that. But man, when you come to FAMU, you got that fan support and you got the number 1 public HBCU. That means something for parents. That means something for kids. FAMU in Florida, my mama can come see me. She ain't got to drive all the way across the country. So recruiting is about getting the right coach and being able to get the player. So with that being said, I think everybody has the opportunity to be a championship program. I don't think it's every program, but I think it's still those programs, the Jackson States, the FAMUs. You got Prairie View coming up. You got Southern and what Eddie Robinson, because of the consistency of Eddie Robinson at Alabama State. Those are things that I'm seeing. Especially when we're talking swag here. Over in the MEAC, you look, hey man, Trey Oliver's always going to be in the mix, bro. You're not going to outcoach Trey Oliver. His team's always going to be in the mix. Chennis Berry, his teams are always going to be in the mix. He came in the first year and said, hey, we can come in and win. Look at what Deshaun Jackson's doing. You think they're not going to get all those guys from California that can play and build something up and be Deion Prime 2.0? And see what happens there. So I think there's always an opportunity. But what the good thing about it is, and see, this is where I will say Jackson has the advantage. I'll take the president off because it's shaky. But from Ashley Robinson to TC Taylor to Coach O to the players to the collective to the fans, they're all in alignment. That's one of the only schools of SWAC that can say that from, and like I say, just count the president because they ain't stopped Jackson State from winning championships. From Ashley Robinson, the best AD, the best coach, best assistant coach, biggest fan base, best collective. Hey man, that's real talk right there, man.
I agree. And in my opinion, Jackson State is, as a Texan, what I hope that Prairie View or TSU could become, where they're recognized as a premium football brand in the state of Texas. And kids will be willing to really invest their future in playing football at TSU and Prairie View. If Prairie View could somehow get to that level as a football brand here in Texas, they're going to be a team to be dealt with. However, my only point is Jackson State is already there, and they're a national brand. I believe the Lockhart kid isn't even in the SWAC footprint, and he was recruited to Jackson State. That's a tremendous advantage where you can go into a kid's house and tell him, hey, do you want to play at Jackson State? And they don't have to ask, where is Jackson State? That's what happens to happen with a lot of our schools if you're not in the SWAC footprint.
Right. But see, that's what I'm saying. That's why I named the schools. So again, fam, you don't have that problem. You see what I'm saying? If FAMU just recruits Florida, they don't have to go get a kid from Texas. If Prairie View just recruits Texas, they don't have to get a kid from Florida. Alabama State has to go get kids from Florida. You see what I'm saying? Because of just the way the state of Alabama works and how those kids just kind of like, well, I want to go to other schools in Alabama. It's not like that, Mississippi. Jackson State can just get Mississippi kids and again go get this guy and that guy. But those are Mississippi guys.
Now you've explained to me the special relationship between the city of Jackson and Jackson State. And whereas you have players that are really top-notch recruits, even before the star system even existed, that they would consider Jackson State. I believe Ricky Jones said he considered Jackson State and Oklahoma. He was thinking about which one would he go to. In my mind, that was unfathomable, that a kid would look at opportunity at HBCU and juxtapose that to an opportunity at OU, right? That seems crazy. Can you imagine saying a kid going, well, I'm thinking about it's between Prairie View and the University of Texas. Can you imagine that in Texas?
We'll see, and that's the thing. We'll see here, Rocky, and this goes back to what I hope. And again, I love this conversation is free flowing, so it's fluid. But this is what I hope Tremaine Jackson does, that he cuts on the lights to those Prairie View alums that are coaching, right? Because, man, Texas got so many players. Bro, everybody can't go to University of Texas. Everybody can't go to University of Texas. Everybody can't go to Florida State, Miami. So my thing is, when you got coaches, we have Bruce Eugene on here, right? Bruce Eugene sent Noah Bonham because Bruce Eugene said, I trained this boy, raised him up. I'm going to send him to Grambling. I talked to Bruce Eugene. Bruce Eugene got another great quarterback. I'm trying to get that young man in the SWAC. He came down to the FAMU game at Jackson State. We're trying to get that young man in the SWAC. Hopefully FAMU. So again, when you're looking at it, so yeah, you bro, because this thing is changing. So that high level, I got to get 100,000, but it's so many players that want to play that when you get to our programs, and if you got quality coaching, you could get everything that you want out of it. You can get a great education. You can play. Because I'm going to keep telling people this. I'm looking at all those guys, our defensive line, all those guys transferred. They're not playing. You know what they should have done? Stayed at FAMU, and they could have been like Isaiah Major, still getting a check. Isaiah Major's down there at Dallas getting a check. Just think, you're talking about Anthony Dunn, Jenna Hunt, Ash, and the other kid. You know, we got those 4 guys on defensive line. Hey, bro, ain't nobody running over 400 yards on us. You see what I'm saying? Think about that, right? They're still in school. They should have been on this team. Nobody's running 400 yards on Anthony Dunn, Gentle Hunt, Ash, and the other kid that went to UCLA that are not even playing. So those are the things that, again, if you get the right coach with the right program, and again, something that jumpstarts quick, because FAMU, it's easy. Willie took a team 1-10, went 6-5, and was one game from going to the Celebration Bowl his first year, and had all those players from a 1-10 team. So again, if you get the right coach, because the one thing about it, the FAMU fan base is going to welcome you. You're going to get taken care of. You're going to get a great education. So that's the thing about it. So what I'm saying is to them, you got to understand, you got to copy what Jackson State is doing. Get in alignment with your AD, your coaches, and your fan base. And then if you got schools that have the ability to recruit players like a FAMU, a Prairie View, a Southern, then you'll see a change.
So am I correct in saying this, and then we'll get to evaluating the games for next week? And this is what I see with Jackson State. They're getting top recruiting classes, right? Right? They have a top brand in their state, right? And not only that, they're hitting on those transfers more frequently than the other schools in their conference, correct?
But see, this is the thing about it. All transfers are not made equal.
That's what I'm saying. They're hitting on those.
Well, listen what I mean by that. I saw Nate Rembert put 150 yards on FAMU's ass. Thank you, Jackson State, because he literally made his tape to go to Jackson State for Valley. The kid could play. Quincy Ivory, that kid is a freak athlete. Bro, the boy was a quarterback at Valley. I don't think people remember this. So again, compared to getting guys, and I'm gonna say FAMU, well, he looks a certain way in the portal, but then you go look, the kid didn't play. The kid didn't play. So Jackson State is not going to get 30, 40 guys that never played. They're selectively getting guys, to your point, because they want to come and play for a championship team, but they're able to select. And that's the thing that FAMU really got to get it together.
And more importantly, the last thing I'll mention is, and then we'll go ahead and review the game, is that seem like they're retaining their quality players at a higher rate than some of the other schools. We doing our research with Alabama State, and what has caused their defense to take a huge dip is they've lost some players to some other programs that could really have helped them out this year. I want to say Blue pointed out that there were some all-conference caliber kids that transferred out. And that's why their defense is in the situation that it's in right now. We all know that they had a top DB that's playing at Florida State or somewhere, you know. So, and it seems like, again, best of my knowledge, other than the wide receiver, Isaiah Spencer, I don't know what other players transferred out last year. They were seeming to retain most of their players on the championship team.
Shout out to my nephew, my Jackson homeboy, Ken Clark. And I told Ken this, and I'm proud of Ken because that's a labor of love what Ken is doing. That's a labor of love. And man, but this goes back to the thing about being an alignment. They started at 1,400 collective, and it's two things. Because if you got guys that want to go get 6 figures, they're going to leave no matter what. But if you got guys that like being where they're at, and you can provide them a little bit of financial balance, well, you know what? If they say take your girlfriend out, go buy a pizza, pay for your rent, and you don't have those other distractions, because I'm going to keep saying this. If we make all things even, there's nothing like going to an HBCU, period. You see what I'm saying? Because if I can make you feel comfortable, I'm going to tell you, like everybody talking about Andrew Body Tramper. Andrew Body just pledged Kappa. He got a bunch. That boy is living life. He is not going to get the same experience if he goes over there to UAB.
And this is not anything that I know or anything like that. I think they're taking good care of Andrew over there. I don't know what they got worked out.
But you know there's always more money. There's always more money. Yeah. So that's my point. So let's go back to the KC 1400 point. Let me take care of them to a point, because if I can get you even, then all the other things that's great about the Jack State, the FAMUs, the Alabama State, the Prairie Views kick in. The girls, the professors, the education, the alumni, just being around Black people where you ain't got to look over your shoulder. Man, that's a great feeling. Hey, listen, man, Shiloh was just on some podcast, and I will never forget that because it was on when they had the Prime documentary. And it was his first day, and he had the big boy that played offensive line. Their first day on Jack State campus. And he went to that. He said, man, this thing is different. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. Bruh, it is different. Listen, I'm going to say, you don't think Andrew Body's living his best life down at Alabama State? Man, the girls are gorgeous at Alabama State. You don't think these people, and I'm saying this respectfully, because these are positive young men. But I'm talking about, these are women they can meet to be wives. You see what I'm saying? These are quality women. This ain't no Instagram thoughts. We got women that are going to go make hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going to be doctors and lawyers at our schools. This is what I'm saying. So if you got this girl that's a J set, that's a dime on the field and a dime in the classroom, bro, I'm not going with no flat booty white girl at UAPB. I mean, Alabama Birmingham. Man, get out of here with that. FAMU, man.
On, one of the things that I think that a lot of the athletes and the athlete that transferred out, we should have one of them on and let them talk about what transferring out to a PWI was the contrast in cultures. Because I think that matters. Because to me, like I said, I didn't go to HBCU or anything like that. But the culture that exists just on game day is such a rewarding and enriching experience that to have that every day of your formative years, I think that's an impact it can have on you that of obviously by people in this room that lasts a lifetime, man. So I think there's an advantage here for HBCUs to take advantage, but they got to somehow get those kids on campus, and they got to somehow get kids that can play on campus.
But wait a minute, but that goes back. See, this all starts in the simple. This is not hard. This all starts with the coach. You show me a good coach, Chennis Berry, Trey Oliver, Rashawn Jackson, Tremaine Jackson, Eddie Robinson, T.C. Taylor. Look at what all those guys have in common. They're leaders of men. They make you want to come play for them. You see what I'm saying? Eddie Robinson is getting guys, and that's why I'm getting mad. I'm like, how's Eddie Robinson getting guys from Miami? They come to Alabama State, and they're just passing Tallahassee. That shouldn't happen. But you know why? Because they want to play for Coach Robinson. When TC go get all these guys from Atlanta and Texas, and they're passing all these other schools, they want to play for TC Taylor. When Tremaine Jackson went in there and said, hey, listen, we ain't the same old Prairie View. Don't come here. We ain't doing this. Guess what? All them boys want to play for their coach. So that's my thing. When you want to play for a man, and again, remember this too. Your coach for a lot of these young men, not to say because many of these young men have fathers in their lives, but this is their father away from home, which is a very big deal. So when they can go to their father, Rocky, hey, daddy, man, don't bring that to me. You better talk to your coach. Hey, man, listen, you here to play for me, man. You can't be calling your daddy running home. You got to be a man. This is what these men are training these young men to do. So when you meet these men, and I'm just saying, man, and we got a lot of parents. You all know that there's nothing better. And listen, man, I've had cousins play D1, play in the NFL. I know a lot of guys, and I've had this discussion. And I'm gonna use one quick example. Think about all those black guys that played for Tommy Tuberville, and look at Tommy Tuberville now. Do you really think that they really got something from Tommy Tuberville, or they just went to Auburn to go to Auburn? They didn't get nothing. That man don't like black folks. You think T.C. Taylor don't love these young men? You don't think Eddie Robinson don't love these young men? You think about this. That's the difference. So when I, as a parent, and I see a Eddie Robinson, a T.C. Taylor, good-looking, strong black men, educated black men, and I know they're going to take care of because I want my son to be like that man.
Absolutely. All right, hey, Cameron, we're going to buzz through this, man. You guys did an amazing watch party. I came back and watched it, watched some of it at least. Man, you guys did an amazing watch party. Overall, what did you think about both teams and how they performed?
Man, listen, let me tell you what I was happiest about was because you got to understand something at this game. And the numbers kept jumping. People saying, oh, it was 30,000. And then they said, well, it ended up being 47,000 in the stadium, I think. 47,000 people. Majority of people were non-HBCU affiliated people that got to see their first HBCU football game. And the pageantry, Scotty was there. Everything was first class. But what I was excited about, many people had never been at, man, you got to understand, a lot of people never been at NFL stadium because of how much the ticket costs. So for them to come in there on a Thursday night, 47,000 people, a fairly good game. I mean, of course, there was some ebbs and flows in the game. I was excited, but I'm telling you what, we were not shocked. But here was the thing for Norfolk. They cover, as you like to say, they covered the spread. They did cover. So, but the thing about it, what I liked about this game is that you saw once again Deshaun Jackson being what I'm talking about, a leader of men. Scotty had Nemo Washington, offensive coordinator, a leader of men. Clinton Porter's leader of men. Eugene Chunk, leader of men. These are what you want to see. And for this game, for it to be on TV, of course, they had the A-team, my FAMU homegirl, Tiffany, and Jay on the call. Man, it was nothing better. The camera work was great. The game was great. The interviews were great. You had all these people there, and they were there to watch HBCU football. And for me, as an HBCU fan, man, because you got to understand, this was like a back end, would be a back end. You had Jackson State at Grambling, Las Vegas. Amazing game, right? National TV game. Great job of HBCU going to NFL Network. And then you turn, and I'm talking about big brands, right? Grambling, Jackson State. And then you got two brands that really people don't know about that put on a spectacle on the back end. Man, that is a great week of HBCU football.
Hey, let me ask you this. How about MEAC 2 weekends in a row leading the HBCUs in attendance? That's pretty outstanding, isn't
it? That is unbelievable. That is amazing. And that shows you
even in a weekend where you had Jackson State playing Alabama State and then Jackson State playing Grambling. You know what I mean? Both those weekends. Not Alabama. Well, it was.
BS3 Network. Changing the way you watch TV.